every minute everybody's bombarded with these accounts and these influencers and these filters and things like that, creating this, like, there's just, okay, this is what you're supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to eat. This is what you're supposed to do. And like, again, it's just, it's not good. It just plays in the heads of men and women.
Absolutely.
And just, again, creating this false ideal of what we're all supposed to look like. And it's really not, it's not good.
Hello, and welcome back to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser, and this week, my guest is Moyra Gorski. She's a podcaster, a wellness expert, and a passionate entrepreneur. As a retired RN and wellness advocate, she helps people live healthy lives and mentors emerging entrepreneurs to build their business online. Moyra is sharing a message of hope, health, and recovery today through her podcast, Journey to Joy. Both mother and daughter have fought an eating disorder, and while daughter is still on her recovery journey, mom is standing on the other side with victory. Her message is that you can overcome any challenges that life throws your way with a smile and a little juggling. She is passionate about journaling and has created a Journey to Joy journal. When she's not speaking, podcasting, or encouraging others, she loves to practice yoga, taking walks, ballroom dancing, and resides in Chicagoland area with her husband and one of her 4 children. Everybody, please welcome Moyra. Hi.
Hi, it's so great to be here with you.
Yes.
Today.
So
Thank
I
you.
met Moyra at the Energetics of Business event, and she's just an incredible, you would never think that she had an eating disorder at all. This is what's so crazy about people. When you see them, you think they have it all together, right? You look at them and they're like, this woman is put together. Her hair was beautifully coiffed. She had a beautiful outfit. She had perfect jewelry. And then she's like, and I talk about having an eating disorder. I'm like, you of all people, tell us about your journey. How did this all begin?
Yeah, well, thank you. Those were very kind words. And I loved meeting all of the women at that, and a couple of men at that energetics business event. But, I had a pretty typical upbringing. I had raised in a lovely home and pretty conservative, and other siblings and loving parents, and went off to college just a few hours away from me, and loved the place that I went to. But that first time really away from home, there were a lot of stresses and a lot of challenges. And I had a good relationship with my mother, but also one that I didn't feel like I could give her a call and say, Mom, man, my friends all want to drink. And, I don't know if I really want to drink yet. Or like my boyfriend, it's like all these pressures were coming on me, and I wasn't really sure how to handle them. And I didn't feel like I had that relationship with my mom that I could call her and just have her be like, just listen to me instead of being kind of judgmental. And so I didn't reach out to her. And yet I continued to struggle. And I found that that's when my, eating disorders started, because as I've learned, when we're having a hard time controlling things around us, we can control what we eat. And just somehow it started. And that was really my start of my eating disorder in college, through the stresses and that insecurity that I had about myself. And I've learned with my podcast too, and interviewing lots of people, because I often say, well, it was just it wasn't a big deal. And really any type of disordered eating, anytime that your behavior is changed because of, something in your life. I mean, that's an eating disorder, be it that it lasts for a year, 10 years, anywhere in between. And so thankfully my friends said, you need to go talk to somebody, you need to get some help. And we had a wonderful free counseling service at that college. And so with a little bit of resistance, I went to get some help and just get somebody to talk to, so that I could feel like it helped me kind of understand what I was going through. And so college went on, and I finished and moved on to Chicago and started working as a nurse, and had a little bit of therapy, if you will, here and there, but really just got more confident about my life and my life choices, and felt better about moving on in life. And so things got better, in that disordered eating, to that extent, certainly went away. And life went on, and lived most of my 20s in the city of Chicago, and met the man that I would later marry. And we got married and started having kids, and had 4 children, and stayed home. And during that time, when our oldest son was still pretty young, he had some health issues that he struggled with. And I was introduced to, I was introduced to the idea of different type of looking at things, from the wellness perspective, building his health and things like that. And so, and I was introduced to a company that had wellness products. And so I started to learn about that and step into that to help my son. It ended up helping me feel better about myself in a healthier way. And that was the start of my entrepreneur journey. Again, didn't really expect that, but it was one of those things that I saw how changing the products that I used, using things more naturally, it helped us. And I just wanted to, I think, at least for me, when I learn different things, I want to share that with other people because it might help them.
Yeah.
And
before we move on, I wanted to unpack a lot about what happened to you when you were in college. So you said it was chaotic, and you're in a new environment, and it felt like you had no control. And obviously you said that you didn't have your mom you can call, or someone that you can call to get advice. And so what out of all the things made you decide, I'm going to control my food, because that's the one thing I can control? Was it because you already had an idea, I need to lose weight, or was it just that one thing that you could control?
Yeah, I think it was just that one thing. I think it started kind of innocently, because we're got to go to the, where the food's served, and make our choices. And I think I just was like, what, I'm going to choose not that and choose this, or choose to not, or eat less, or whatever. So it was a bit of an unconscious choice at that point. I mean, I was never a stick thin person. I was, growing up, I was fairly athletic. But I never really, I wouldn't say that I had this body image.
Yeah. So you weren't influenced by a friend who was doing it as well. No. So how would you describe, for somebody who's listening, what exactly is disordered eating?
Well, it's a matter of controlling what you're eating or you're not eating. There are patterns of eating disorders that lead to, binging and purging and things like that. So it's a different way of eating, nourishing yourself than what would be normal. And what I did was I restricted my intake. And but I think the really important message is that it's not, again, I chose to control my food. It's really in it, but it wasn't about the food.
Yeah.
Right. It was about everything else that was going on around me. It was the fact that I felt like you said, there was some chaos in my life. I didn't know how to speak up for myself, to go ask for help when I was struggling academically, or say to my friends, hey, dude, whatever, you have a beer, but I don't really want to drink. And, those kind of things. I wasn't confident enough in myself to speak up and to deal with those stressors of life. So I decided to grab on something that I could do.
Yeah. No, I totally, completely understand. When I was growing up, I lived in a chaotic environment, and for me, it's cleaning. Everything's got to have its place. Everything has to be organized. I get a little bit off kilter when things aren't cleaned or put in their place. The anxiety level rises when, I've lost control or chaos of my environment. So I totally get it. But, for people who are listening and thinking you only fit in two different categories if you're like binging and purging, or if you're just like restricting yourself. But there is like this like spectrum of, if you're choosing not to eat certain things because you think they're going to make you gain weight, like for example, pasta or ice cream, or you're restricting yourself to not do those things, that can also be considered disordered eating, right? Like you have this idea, because I grew up in the whole like working out era, where it was
Mm-hmm.
like work out, work out, work out. And I remember a CrossFit trainer told me you can't eat bananas because bananas have too much sugar in them. And so for a long time, I wouldn't eat a banana. I was so afraid to eat a banana because, I was afraid that was way too much sugar. And then I had another trainer tell me, oh, you can eat bananas. They're good for potassium. They're good for after recovery of your workouts. So it's all these different messages that you
Mm-hmm.
get, along your journey, that where you're just kind of like, well, what's the right answer? Especially with, like, for example, I just recently got my blood work done, and one nurse told me I can't eat eggs anymore because I have high cholesterol. And then another nurse told me, like, no, it's not the eggs, it's the red meat, and it's just like, what's the right answer?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to figure out, like, how can I enjoy food without feeling restricted, or without thinking or counting the calories in your head. That can also be disordered eating, correct?
Right, right. Yeah. Like you're eating because of how it's going to impact the way you look, instead of like
Mm,
you're eating to nourish yourself because you need, you were nourishing ourselves to get fuel, but you're thinking about what you're eating and the result that it's going to have. Like you said, that
yeah,
trainer says, oh, that's too much sugar, you can't eat eggs because that'll raise your cholesterol. Now there is, there's a lot of knowledge that's out there that we need to learn to live healthy lifestyles, and the
yeah.
food, the choosing things like that. But when it is so it's something that just takes over, and you're so
Hmm.
concerned about that because of, like you said, you were scared to eat a banana because of what it might do to you, or you're scared to eat pasta because you want to be able to look this certain way. I mean, it's just something that really is an overtaking type of thought pattern,
Yeah.
which is really not not correct.
No. And I think it's gotten worse. Like, I think growing up, before we had social media, because I grew up without, like, Instagram and Facebook and all, the social media TikToks. Like, before, it was like you saw the magazines in the store and you're like, I want to look like them. Obviously, back then we didn't know that they were photoshopping them and, like, making them even thinner than they were. And so you had these like unrealistic ideals on how your body should be. And now I think it's gotten a lot worse with social media, and the new generation trying to look a certain way. And with all these filters that you can now
Hmm.
put on your, TikToks or your Instagrams, you're just kind of like, wait a minute, that's not what I really look like. And so now you have this distorted view of yourself and this unrealistic expectation of what your body should look like. And so
Right.
then I believe, like, I'm sure it's probably, I don't know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure that eating disorders have gone through the roof because of social media.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the social media has really not, um, it's been helpful in some ways, I like to say, and it's also just very damaging for our children and for the people that are our children, or just people that go on there. Because like you said, they see this. It used to be that, again, you'd pick up a magazine at the store or you'd be in the checkout line, but you didn't have social media. I mean, I'm 59 years old. I mean, we didn't have that type of thing when I was growing up. You just went home and you talked to your mom and did your homework, type of
Yeah.
thing. But now every day, every minute, everybody's bombarded with these accounts and these influencers and these filters and things like that, creating this, like, there's just, okay, this is what you're supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to eat. This is what you're supposed to do. And like, again, it's just, it's not good. It just plays in the heads of men and women.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
and just, again, creating this false ideal of what we're all supposed to look like. And
Hmm.
it's not good, because and yes, during this, the last 3 years, the rise in mental health disorders and issues, and eating disorders are the biggest part of
Yeah.
that. Have
And
been
I'm sure
on the
2020
rise.
didn't help because it's like that part of the year, well, the entire, since COVID started, it's like no one had control of anything. And so
Mhm,
I'm sure like we all like started to figure out how can we control our environment because COVID was rampant. And so there's many ways that people cope, and this is
mhm,
one of the ways that people cope. So tell
mhm.
us about how, after your son was born and you got into this wellness journey, how you decided like, I am going to start helping others.
Yeah. Well, I, our daughter, so I have 4 children and 3 boys and a girl. And our daughter, when she was in high school, started to struggle with her own eating disorder. And it was a tough time when you feel like your past is repeating itself in front of your face. And they mention, well, there's a genetic component to eating disorders.
Hmm.
It was like, what is this all about? I mean, it was a really scary time for us as parents and for her. And so I just dug in to try to help her and find the resources that she
Yeah.
needed. And
Did she come to
and
you or did you discover that things were changing in her?
yeah, I discovered I had a few clues
Hmm.
with a little bit with her behavior, with some weight loss, something that a couple of my son's friends had said to him because they were in high school at the same time. So I had some clues, but nothing, I just sometimes you never imagine that this is something that
Yeah.
happened, or could happen. But we were out to dinner. Our 2 older sons were out with my husband, I think out of town, for a hockey tournament or something like that. And I was out to dinner with our daughter and our youngest son. And I caught her kind of playing with her food,
Mm,
not throwing it around or anything, but just some of the things that I recognized that behavior
yeah.
of kind of like playing with your food and kind of pretending you're eating, but you're really not eating much. And so we got home, we wrapped up dinner, got home, I put my son to bed, and then she was in the bathroom and I walked into her room, and that was at the time that you could just flip open a phone. You didn't have to have a password or anything like that. And so I picked up her phone and I read some conversations that she was having with a girlfriend
Mm,
about her behavior and her behavior in that, we had to go out to dinner tonight, or I really wanted to go to the gym, or I just had a shake for lunch, or things like that I was like, what? And the girlfriend was kind of telling the same similar story. And I remember she walked into the bedroom and I was like, what's going on? And
mm,
so it was a time that um I think she was glad that, because she was very confused at the time. So I think she was
yeah.
glad that somehow I discovered that. And so we did get a chance to sit and talk about it. I mean, this was a girl that had a smile on her face every single day. She had, um, index cards with inspirational sayings and pictures of her and her friends, like taped up on her wall in the form of a heart. I mean, this was a girl that was always happy. So I
Yeah.
never imagined that this was happening. And it was this, it was that pressure of high school. It was the start of her sophomore year. And it was just there was a lot of pressure and stuff like that was really getting to her.
Yeah.
And, but she was confused at that time, similar to like me. I was like, I don't know. I was a little
Yeah,
confused
but she
and
has the beautiful opportunity to talk to you,
yeah.
different from
So
you being able to talk to your mom.
yeah, yeah. And, um, so it was the start of, again, finding the help that she needed and open up that conversation to like, what's going on? What do you need? We did a little bit ourselves, and then it was a matter of finding help for her from a therapist and a dietitian. And
Yeah. Did
um,
she know about
I'm
your struggles before?
she did not know at that time.
Oh,
No, because then that was the thing. Well, perhaps a little bit, because actually I take that back, because a girlfriend of mine, her daughter had started struggling with some similar issues a few years prior to that. Actually, my niece had gone through some things herself. And I think that's when I brought up like, oh, I've had this before. And one of my and, I talked a little bit about the college experience, and one of my sons said, well, why didn't we ever know this, Mom? I'm like, well, I mean, I'm past all of that. I don't really feel like there's a need for me to talk about it. I'm not
Yeah.
living back there. But when you can share your experience again with somebody so that it can help them,
Yeah.
that like you've been there. I mean, that's what I felt like I wanted to say to my niece when I got her on the phone, and I said, I'm sorry that you're struggling with this. And I've been there, and I know that there's hope on the other side. And,
Yeah.
but I'm very, again, our daughter is in a good place today. She lives with us, and it's really her story to tell. So I don't want to focus so much on her story, but that was the start of many years of struggle and in and out of treatment programs and things like that. And what I learned and had to learn about myself was that, and we've all heard it, right? We have to put our oxygen mask on first before we try to take care of anybody else. And being a nurse and a mom of four and an emerging entrepreneur, I was just trying to do all of that and help everybody and just get all that stuff done. And I wasn't taking care of myself, and that extra stress of that chaos in our house.
Yeah.
In addition to a busy family, that was really getting to me. And so again, some friends spoke up and said, come on, you better go take care of yourself. And so I found some retreats to go to and courses to take and things to do to nourish me. And it was a real learning experience that I didn't often ask for help, because I was raised by a woman that just got things done. And I did that, but I learned that I needed to be the leader of my own life and step into taking care of myself and learn about boundaries and learn about me first, and then taking care of others. And so that's really been a journey.
That's truly important. Yeah, it's so important to like take care of yourself first. As a mom, I'm sure the first thing you want to do is like, I need to take care of her. I need to protect her. I need to take care of my other children. And, but you do have to take care of yourself first, because if you're running on an empty cup and you're frazzled and you have anxiety and you're not losing sleep, it's hard to take care of someone else. You won't have the right mindset or the right, decision-making ability if you're completely out of alignment versus if you are taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And just in learning that we can be that living example for our kids, and then they choose to do whatever they want to do with their choices in their life, be it any of my children or my daughter, but just again, showing them that this is the best way to take care of yourself by getting up in the morning. I established a morning routine of meditation and prayer and journaling and some movement and all those things to nourish my soul and nourish my body. Just learn the importance of doing that. And that helped me feel better through being able to handle the chaos that was going on around me. And, as time went on, I feel podcasting became something that people were doing in a way to share their message and to share their story. And I heard from so many people that I met along the way and at these different retreats I went on that everybody has a story. And I said, what if I take up podcasting and give other people a chance to share their story? Because I feel like that when we share our stories, we give other people the hope that they're not alone. And in their journey of chaos or life or whatever it is. And if I could give people a chance to do that, then I don't know. I felt very drawn to do that. And that was the start of my, podcast journey three some years ago, to just share that story of me, of how I've been juggling the chaos of this life, but really finding joy within that. Because again, it's chaos. We're all going to have chaos. There's a lot of juggling and all that. And I was waiting for things to get better. Like, when are things going to be better? And when am I going to feel more joyful? And when am I going to feel more happy? And it was such a realization that like, I needed to go find the joy. I needed to go find the things. I needed to step out and do some things and try to, again, take care of myself, but go find things that are going to light me up again and
Yes.
wake up my heart again. And I think that happens with so many of us, again, that life kind of gets us down. We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. I was just watching a video of a woman who said, I'm 50 years old and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't get better. And then like you're listening to the video and you're kind of like, wait a minute, is this like she being sarcastic? Like it's never going to get better. And as you watch the rest of the video, she's basically saying like, all we're doing is waiting for the next thing. Like when I have my husband, that's when I'll find the joy. Or when I get that car, that's when I'll find the joy. When I buy that house, that's when I'll be happy. Or when I have that kid, that's when I'll be happy. Or when I retire, and so we're always looking for the future to bring us this joy when we can find the joy today and not waste every single day waiting for the next thing, hoping that that's the thing that's going to bring us joy when we really need to find the joy within ourselves. And I love that you said, I need to go find things that light me up, and kids are the perfect example of like how they just literally entertain themselves and find joy in the smallest things like mud pies or their little Legos or anything. They find joy in everything, and they're not so concerned with what they look like or how their hair is or what outfit they're wearing. They could be wearing mixed match shoes and a stain on their shirt. They're going to have joyful days, and that's what we need to do as adults. We need to like find the joy in every single day, because there is beauty in every day. We don't see it because we're too like hunkered down in all the chaos and the problems, when those things eventually, like I always tell my clients, like this too shall pass. Every darkness has a light at the end of the tunnel. Every rainstorm has a rainbow at the end, because nothing lasts forever. Seasons don't last forever. And that's exactly what happens in life. You go through a dark season, but eventually spring will come and new growth will happen in your life.
Yeah, that's so very true. So very true. And I learned that so much myself. Again, you're just like, we can play this martyr of like life, and like you said, life doesn't get better and life sucks and all of this, or we can, okay, and right. And I think that was part of what I would hear my daughter saying, and instead of this is the sentence that we're given. Yeah, this, and what can we do about it? We do have choices. We can choose to sit in all of that. And or we can choose to, well, it's just not a very good day, but I bet tomorrow's going to be a little bit better. And what can we do about it? We can let other things control us, or other, things that we read, or other people, or social media posts. We can let that impact us, or we can say, I don't know, I don't really watch the news, because you turn the news on and it's like, okay, that's not good.
One disaster after another, right?
Right. So like, I'm not going to watch the news. And then somebody will say, what about this happening? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what that is, because I don't watch the news. But it's, again, we have the choices of what we can do every day, as opposed to being so controlled by everybody else around us.
It reminds me of that statement, GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. And I used to watch and listen to a lot of like true crime podcasts, and I caught myself being scared almost every single day. Like, oh my God, what was that noise? Oh, this is the time I'm going to get raped and murdered. And then I realized it's because I'm listening to all these true crime podcasts. Like, I need to cut that out of my life, because it was creating this like fear in my body. And I was like, I need garbage in, garbage out. I need to like put good stuff in my brain so I can have good stuff come out. And the moment that I made that choice of like, I'm going to stop listening to murder podcasts, and I'm going to start listening to motivational YouTubes and motivational podcasts, my life changed, and that's how we can make the choices on a daily basis to change our life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people used to talk about journaling, and I'm like, my penmanship is not good. I don't want to write down, like, what am I supposed to say, and like, it's too messy. And I realized that, like, again, and then I listened to the people that said, just do things simply. You could just write down what you're grateful for, right? You could write down, what your prayers are, or you could just write down, what you're so aggravated about. And I realized that the writing, now, perhaps I may write a book someday, but it's probably going to be more transcribed from, I'll probably dictate it as opposed to write it.
Yeah.
But nobody was, it didn't matter what it looked like. What it mattered was to get those things out of my head. And boy, journaling became something. That's why I created a journal myself to give to others, because I learned that as I started to write down those things, sometimes I'd be like, I didn't have anybody to talk to, or I was struggling with what was going on. And I just started writing about it. People would say, just write it, like, and just write your frustrations and get those thoughts out of your head.
Yes.
And lo and behold, it's like free therapy for you. You're sitting there and it's amazing the stuff that comes up as you just start to write. I'm like, wow, this is kind of very insightful. And so that became a daily practice. And now I do a little journaling before I go to bed to celebrate the wins. Like,
oh, I love that.
What were what are the 3 things? What are my 3 wins today? And what are the things that I want to maybe do tomorrow, and it's kind of been a game changer. I just started to do that a couple of weeks ago. And my sleep is better, and I've been having some interesting dreams, and it's like kind of cool. But celebrating those, like looking at the good. I always tell people, like, let's just focus, like, see the good. It may be a crappy day, and you got a flat tire, and your boss yelled at you, and you stubbed your toe or whatever, but like, let's see the good in what you have going on, because there's always good. You can always find the bad, but you can always find the good. And like you said, if you focus on the good and focus on the good things coming in, then there's going to be more good things coming in.
The good gets better, and it gets bigger and more, right?
Right.
Okay, Moyra, as we wrap up this episode, what would be your nugget of wisdom for anyone who's listening right now?
I think, again, many things that I said today is really, for one, you need to take care of yourself. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself first. And if you're unsure how to do that, there's people that can help you with that, or there's books you can read, like The Miracle Morning, or listen to Mel Robbins. She talks about get up when you wake up. But it's also just knowing that, again, there are going to be those ups and downs. You're going to be on a roller coaster sometimes of life. You feel like you're on a roller coaster, but I just encourage people to find the joy, to find the things that really make them happy. And if you're unsure of what that is, just try things and know that you're not sure. It may be a ceramics class. For me, it was ballroom dance. I never imagined that. It might be podcasting. It might be a book club. It might be walking in the park and collecting wildflowers. It doesn't matter. But what it is like, just take that first step. Like, take the first class, take the first phone call, write the first, you want to write a book, just write the first page. But knowing that we can't control necessarily what is going on, and there are going to be good days and bad days. But what I love to help people do is just find the joy, and just find a little bit of good in the day, and keep doing it over and over again. And, your days will get better, and you will feel that heart will. There were times that I wasn't sure that my heart would ever open up and trust that life was going to be good. Okay. And that my daughter was going to be okay. And I mean, there was a lot of sadness there in my heart. And then just slowly, you just do a little more trust, a little bit more, and things start to wake up inside of you. And
I love that. It reminds me of the book, The Untethered Soul, where Michael Singer says, when someone breaks up with you, you're in this like dark place, you have no energy, you don't want to get up, you don't want to eat, your heart is broken. And then that person calls you 3 months later and says, oh my God, I love you, I want you back. Like, instantly you have that energy to like clean your apartment and like get dressed. And, even though you haven't slept all night, like you're so excited to see her. And it's because your heart opened up again, at the possibility of like love. And I think that's what we do as humans, is we close up because we're trying to protect ourselves, and there's so much chaos, there's so many things going on in our life, and we're trying so hard to protect ourselves, so we close our heart up. But really, like, I love that you described it, like when you start to think of things that bring you lights like ballroom dancing, your heart starts to open up to life again, and it
Mhm,
makes you feel like alive again. So those are
mhm.
so important things to do, is to really take care of yourself and find the things that light you up. I love that. How
Yeah.
can my audience find you, Moira?
Well, I do have a website, so moyragorski.com. And if you spell my name correctly with the Moyra, Gorski.com, and you can find all my links there, but you can find me on social. I'm on Facebook, Green Gorski on Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn. I haven't popped over to that TikTok place.
Oh,
I
it's
was there for a
okay.
hot second and then I got a little scared. So
I love
yeah.
TikTok. What was I going to say? Where can they find your journal? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. It's again the Journey to Joy journal through Amazon. You can also go to barnesandnoble.com and find it there. And yeah, I encourage people to, again, I would love for them to buy my journal. I have some prompts in there that help you, again, know how you can start that journey. I have some inspirational sayings, some links to my podcast for some inspiration too. And if you don't buy my journal, then just take out a piece of paper and start writing. It doesn't have to be a big fancy book either.
Yes. And make sure you listen to her podcast, Journey to Joy. Thank you again for being on the podcast, Moira.
Thank you for having me.
Let me see, and stop. Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. If you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual mentor, you can book a free discovery call with me at www.fearlessfemale.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at fearlessfemale_coach. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at fearlessfemale, or find me on TikTok. I'm under at paola.rosser. And if you love this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. I read every single review, and I truly appreciate the time you spend writing it.